Good evening. It is August 17th, 2021. It is 6 p.m. and we are here to begin our council meeting. If we could please call the meeting to order.
So this meeting is being held in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice has been provided by transmitting the resolution of annual meetings to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, and the Tri-Town News, by posting it on the bulletin board reserved for such announcements in the Township Municipal Building, and by filing it with the municipal clerk on January 8, 2021. The agenda is complete to the extent known, and formal actions will be taken. At this time, I will call the roll. Councilman Bonovich.
He indicated he's running a few minutes late. He should be here shortly.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Here.
Councilwoman Richmond.
She indicated she'll be calling in for the regular portion of the meeting.
Deputy Mayor Russo.
Here.
And Mayor Berger.
Present. Is there any reason to go into executive this evening?
Yes, Mayor, we have items to discuss under the topics of contracts, attorney-client privilege, litigation, and that's it.
May I have a motion to go into executive?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
So let me read the resolution into the record. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell wishes to go into closed executive session and is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, which should not be discussed in public, and whereas the Open Public Meetings Act pursuant to NJSA 471A-1 permits the Township Council to discuss certain matters in private, and in this case, for the purpose of the Township Council to discuss contractual personnel litigation and terms and conditions which require attorney-client privilege in this regard. Now therefore be resolved by the Township of Howell Council that it will go into an executive session for the purpose of the Township Council to discuss contractual personnel litigation and terms and conditions which require attorney-client privilege in this regard. Be it further resolved that the results of such discussion may be revealed at such time as the matter is resolved and/or contract is signed and the negotiations are formally settled. Interest parties may contact the municipal clerk anytime during normal business hours for periodic updates as to the availability of this report. Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo.
Yes.
And Mayor Berger.
Yes.
And let us state for the record that Councilman Bonovich has arrived on the dais.
Thank you.
This meeting is now closed to the public.
Good evening, everyone. It is August 17th, and it's 7:04, and we will begin the regular session of our board meeting, our council meeting.
So let us stand for the Pledge of the Allegiance.
Before we sit down, if we could have a moment of silence for the armed forces and the police and for the fire, and also for so many people who are dying in Afghanistan and who are innocent. So if we could please have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Mayor, at this time, I will call the roll.
Yes,
Councilman
please.
Bonovich.
Present.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Here.
Councilwoman Richmond
Present.
is joining us by phone. Deputy Mayor Russo.
Here.
And Mayor Berger.
Present. At this point, we do the acceptance of the minutes.
Yes, on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes of the previous meeting, July 13th regular meeting, and the August 10th, 2021 special meeting. Is there a motion? Or, I'm sorry?
I have to abstain from the 13th.
Okay, so you want to consider them separately?
Correct.
Okay. So is there a motion to accept the July 13th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
Motion to accept the July 13, 2021 minutes.
Second?
Made by Deputy Mayor Russo, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Mr. Bonovich?
Abstain?
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger.
Yes.
And those minutes have been approved. And next for your consideration will be minutes from the August 10th, 2021 special meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make the motion to accept the August 10th special meeting.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Deputy Mayor Russo. Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And the minutes from August the 10th have been approved.
I just had a couple of little things that I wanted to mention. We have two young ladies here in Howell who were on the Big Joe Jersey Talent Show, and they're in the finals. And so, congratulations to Madison Torres and Manuela Maria, and they're both from Howell High School, so that's really, really cool. I also wanted to wish Miss Barbara Dixell a happy birthday. It's coming up soon, so I wanted to say happy birthday to you.
82.
God bless. I didn't ask you in the back, Brian, but could we talk about the shade tree in a little bit? You have like any updates on that we're doing a couple things with shade tree? Do you want me to do, you could mention it.
Sure,
If you don't
whichever you
mind.
prefer. I do have, DPW has reached out to our tree expert about getting the ball rolling with doing the survey around town for the dangerous trees, as Councilwoman O'Donnell had requested.
And what about the water garden as well?
If you want to
No,
give an
go ahead.
update on it, I'll have to.
Let me just, you'll do that. Let me just do one more thing. I know that this is very controversial, extremely, but I really, I must, being in the clinical world, I must ask that when a mask is mandated, to please use it. You're not only protecting yourself, you are protecting the people that you live with. And there are young children who are getting sick because we're not wearing masks. And this can be detrimental. So I just implore that when you're in very large gatherings and let our children wear masks. I just feel it's a very important subject. And I want to say that if you're out there and you haven't gotten your vaccine and you need information about it, please go on the CDC website. We really need to get as many people vaccinated as possible to be able to counterbalance this Delta COVID virus. So please, that's just my own thing. Should I do? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a packed house tonight, so I'm going to keep my comments very short. I did obviously want to note the events in Afghanistan, and while it's on the other side of the world, many of our Howell residents did serve in Afghanistan. I want to thank you for your service, your blood, and your sacrifice kept us safe for 20 years. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service, commitment to our country. Thank you.
Councilman Bonovich?
I'll keep it really short as well. See, it's a packed house. Most of you guys are probably from Peter Foreman Drive. I got your petition, we all got your petition, and it's over 56 households, over 100 residents. Sometimes technology, beats us to the punch. That's what happened here. Airbnb, college kids found to throw frat parties. So now this Swimply, went from simple pool parties, family gatherings, Sweet 16s, went to party promotions. And just want to assure you that this council, this governing body, our professionals are doing everything, and we have an ordinance. So we hear you. We hear you, and we are introducing an ordinance tonight not only against hourly rentals of home, daily rental of homes, but as well as the amenities. So we're not taking this lightly. We all have it, and we're introducing something tonight, and the next meeting it will be passed. Should be passed. That's about it.
Thanks. Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity just to clear the air about a meeting that I missed 2 weeks ago when we were to have a meeting to vote on the capital budget. And apparently, social media had put something that would infer that my lack of attendance put the township in peril in terms of the grant money. And nothing could be further from the truth. Although my absence was because of a personal issue, that I just said personal issue, and I thought that would suffice, my father was gravely ill in Virginia, and I didn't hesitate. I put family first, and I went to Virginia for 2 weeks. The social media site that posted that I was basically shirking my duties never reached out to me to find out why I wasn't there. But the real issue behind all of this is simply I did not forego my fiduciary duty in any way. There was a process in place to ask for an appeal. Although I thought it was a 20-day appeal that could be requested, I found out later it was 10 days. But nonetheless, at no time was Howell Township in any danger of losing any financial support for the capital budget. And anyone that put misinformation out there, I will only say to them that my family will always come first. And when my father took a turn for the worst at 98, there was no hesitation that I left. So I have never put myself before my duties as council, planning board, zoning board, PTA, Board of Education, anything I've ever served on. But when it comes to my family, they will always be first. So to those people that spread things that were not true, which I will categorize as lies, shame on you. And I will tell them, although I'm sure they don't care, my father is doing very, very much better at this point. And at the age of 98, he just received a pacemaker. And despite what was put out there, I feel sorry for people that have to lie instead of finding the truth. And that is my report.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Hi, I'm going to reserve my right for when I'm in person. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Guillen?
Yes, Mayor, I have a number of things to go over real quick. First, as the council is all aware, but for the public's benefit, the township has prevailed in all the counts in the Monmouth Commerce lawsuit. So unless there's an appeal of any of those decisions, we have prevailed on all counts of that. Some important dates coming up. Discussing the 9/11 memorial that we do every year. We're actually planning on hosting it on the evening of the 10th, Friday night before. Part of the thinking was behind that is with it being the 20th anniversary, there's going to be a lot of large events. So, that way we could still have ours well attended. More information will be coming out about the specifics of that, but it'll be that evening. Also, Howell Day, I've said it before, but just as a reminder, is set for September 25th this year. Few quick items. The Shade Tree Commission has been very active with their plans. A few things that they have in the works. The fall tree tubing giveaway is scheduled for Saturday, October 2nd. It'll be at the DPW garage. We'll be announcing that on the website as it gets closer. And they're looking to do a number of rain gardens in various locations around town. They have gotten Rutgers Water Resources Program to cooperate with them and help with the design, and we're identifying a few locations around town for that. On the engineering front, the contractor started the reconstruction work on Lanes Mills Road and anticipates having the project completed by the end of the month. New Jersey American Water has completed their water main installation beneath the Groundhog Brook on Maxim Southern Road, and the contractor anticipates having the roadway reopened to both directions by August 27th. There will still need to be some work completed, but they will be daytime closures or detours not 24/7 like it's been. And then finally, I know I had reported information about the Kent Road Bridge being opened. That was based on information provided by Monmouth County. The most recent information provided by Monmouth County is that the new Kent Road Bridge is scheduled to be open to traffic within a week. They anticipate final paving to start on Thursday. DPW, since the July meeting, they've filled 609 potholes. They responded to 8 resident complaints about potholes. They're very busy with various tasks around town. There was a large sinkhole on West Farm that temporarily closed West Farms Road. They repaired. They have been working with their Clean Communities volunteers. They have them out working on roadways. And they continue with bulk pickup and open space and roadside mowing. And that is all I have for my report, Mayor.
Mr. Clark?
Nothing from me, Mayor, other than to, we were accepting the resignation of Mr. Way tonight as an alternate park owner on the Rent Stabilization Board, and I just wanted to note that he was a fixture on the board for many years and did a very good job while he was there.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? Okay, at this point, I guess we could start the meeting.
Yeah, so next on the agenda would be hearing of the citizens and public comments on consent agenda items.
Okay. Thomas Comer?
And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor Berger and Council. My name is Tom Comer. I live on Littlefield Drive. I'm here representing the Howell Chamber of Commerce. I am the immediate past president of the Howell Chamber. Our president is away this week, which is why I'm here. So thank you for listening to me tonight. I'm aware that you know what the Chamber is, but not everyone who's watching perhaps does. But the Chamber of Commerce provides a platform for local businesses and how they network, get their word out, and educate each other and help each other. And the Howell Chamber of Commerce particularly is made up in large part by small business owners running their businesses in Howell Township. So just a little bit of a statistic that comes from a small business economic impact study from American Express says that 2/3 of every dollar spent in a small business stays in the local economy. So if you go to a small business owner in Howell and you spend $100, 66 of those dollars are going to stay in the local economy. Additional 50%, in other words, for every dollar spent, an additional 50 cents is pumped back into the economy by those local businesses purchasing goods, employing local citizens to work in their businesses. It's no shock to anybody here or listening to me that our small businesses got slammed during the last year and a half with the COVID pandemic and the shutdown and the unbelievable disruption to business that this has all caused. The Howell Chamber, our mission statement is to help our members and our local small businesses to thrive, and they need us now more than ever. Those small businesses that are hurting were those same small businesses that used to support the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, sponsor Little League teams, the Optimist Club, Pop Warner. And when they were doing well, they were helping our local organizations, and they need our help now. So on behalf of the Howell Chamber, I am requesting that of the $2.5 million COVID relief fund that the township is anticipating, that $50,000 of that can be earmarked to the Howell Chamber of Commerce. There are many areas in the town that are in need of funding, and we believe that the Chamber is an area that should be a strong contender due to the effect that COVID and the lockdown has had on our local business community. Our role is to help further the business interests of small businesses in Howell and collaborate with the township and other civic organizations to strengthen the community. The Chamber is currently in talks with a local landlord to have a repeat of the Business Expo that we had 2 years ago. Those of you that were on council then may remember what a huge success that Business Expo was. How businesses came out, how many vendors came out, and how many of the citizens came through and interacted with those vendors, allowing them to showcase their businesses and get their word out and sell their services and their wares. We're anticipating a space in one of the local strip malls that's currently vacant, one of the large spots. I won't say where it is because we don't have a promise yet that it's available, but we believe we're going to be able to access that facility, and we're hoping to do another Business Expo in November, towards the end of November, sort of a lead-in to the Christmas season, so that the businesses can get out and once again first of all, show people that they're still up and running, that they're viable, and give them an opportunity to sell their services or their products. In addition to the Business Expo, at that same time, we're hoping that we can also do a job fair. If you go around town, the sign you see, perhaps more than any other sign, is Help Wanted. People need applicants to come in and work. There are businesses that are offering hiring bonuses to people that are coming to work in places that never had hiring bonuses before. So we're hoping to marry the Business Expo with the Jobs Fair and do them together. And if we get the number of people that we got out the last time, it should be very successful. We also would like to, but have not had the funds to do other programs for small businesses, local businesses, especially startups, to help them either begin or navigate what's going on in the economy right now. We would like to begin to have programs, bring in speakers to talk to local entrepreneurs about issues like, you don't just open a business. I mean, you can, but it's not a recipe for success. How do you create a viable business plan? What are the steps to do it? I don't know that a lot of people that start a business have actually gone through that process. So we're hoping to do seminars on things like how to create a viable business plan, successful marketing in the 21st century, how to access SBA or other small business financing. It's not something that people just intuitively know. And then once you got your business up and running, what about seminars on HR issues, personnel, hiring and firing. And as an attorney, I know there are lots of laws out there that deal with your interaction with your employees and how you can treat them and what you can do, and hiring and firing issues. And those are just some of the seminar issues that I was able to think of as I was planning on coming up here to talk to you. I am sure once we get into it, we can find a myriad of people that are qualified to come in and help us educate our local businesses. But that requires funding that the Chamber has not had in the past. And we're a non-for-profit organization, but the COVID has had an impact on the Chamber as well, as I know some of you already know. We would also like to bring back the new resident program. That was a program, and by the way, if we do the expo and we have funding that we're discussing, we charged our members back 2 years ago a fee to have a table, and we might be able to do it where there would be a nominal fee. So the businesses that are struggling already, we're not putting an additional burden on them. We're going to be able to help them to come, and it would be a nominal cost. We also did the new resident program, but that was a program that the businesses paid to get into because there was a cost associated with it. And every quarter, we would send out a packet, and in that packet, there were things about the township, the history of the township. It had information about the council, information about various services that the township provided that new residents we thought would be interested in knowing, but also our members would then provide us with literature or promotional materials about their business that we would include in the packet and send that out. But there's a cost associated with that, and we haven't been able to do that because, quite honestly, our members have not been able to support that financially over the last year and a half. So we would like to bring that back. The Howell Chamber has in the past teamed with the township to try and run programs that are helpful to local businesses, and by helping local businesses, we help the town. We just finished the Shop Local, Shop Howell program that ran for 6 weeks and ended at the end of July. And the program There were flyers, hopefully you saw them. Those flyers were spread out by volunteers from the Howell Chamber. Basically, there was no cost to any business, there was no cost to anybody. If people bought products locally at a Howell store and kept the receipt, at the end of the 6 weeks, if they dropped the receipts off at a drop-off box at the Investor Savings Bank, and you were the person who had the most receipts, not the most money, but the most receipts, and I think tomorrow or the next day, we're going to be giving a $1,000 check to the Howell resident who had the most receipts for that 6 weeks. Thanks to the partnership and the sponsorship of the Investor Savings Bank, we're going to give them a $1,000 check, but we're also giving $500 to the Howell Food Pantry at the same time. So things like that with the Howell Chamber partnering with businesses and with the town, hoping that we can promote business in Howell. So I want the council to understand, if there's funding provided through this COVID relief package, this is not going to help the chamber run its operation. We're a not-for-profit organization, and this would not be used in any way for our operational purposes. And if the town wants an accounting periodically, say quarterly or every 6 months, as to what the money was spent on, an accounting as to these were the seminars we had, these were the costs associated with that seminar. And I'm not proposing that we're going to spend that amount of money in 1 year. This may be a 2 or 3 year, down the road project that will have, not, instead of just doing it once, give it legs and have it, go for a period of time so that we can help these businesses. So that's the proposal that we would ask the Township Council to consider. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those at this time.
If I may, Mr. Clark, if you would assist me, I'm not quite sure. I have a couple of questions. So if you're providing education to members of the town and the money come to resident store owners, and the money comes from us, and the education is incorrect, do we have any liability?
So I think what we should do is probably work with the chamber to come up with sort of idea. We've got a basic 50,000-foot view of what might be happening, but I think a more dedicated plan so that we can respond to questions like that, what the chamber intends to do. Absolutely, any nonprofit would have to give an accounting if it's township funds. So, that's something that maybe you could package up in a proposal that we could look at.
Like a strategic plan kind of a thing?
Right, exactly.
Sure. Be happy to do that.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know the last expo you had 2 years ago was incredibly successful. I know several council members attended. I was just curious, do you recall, you mentioned that as one of the expenses that you may use that money toward. Would you recall I know we had to put, signs went out, stick in the ground signs to tell people where it was, to advertising the actual promotion. I'm sure there were flyers and advertisement costs. Could you just give me a guesstimate what's that one incident or that one program might have cost 2 years ago?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, and I don't want to give you a guesstimate.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be wrong. And I have a number in my head, but I don't know why it's in my head. And you should also know, and I don't want to denigrate what we did 2 years ago, but we had to do that kind of on the cheap. We
I
didn't-
recall, yeah.
We didn't have any, on-air advertising. We didn't have any, News 12 features. It was us handing out flyers and chamber members going out and posting things in store windows. So, we would prefer, if we could do it again, to do all those things, but also do other
Add to it.
advertising to, especially really with, the jobs fair, get the word out to people that, look, if you're looking for a job, this is a place you can go, and all these businesses will be there with their, their applications, and, get people back to work.
I mean, the timing on this, if you thought about the expo and the job fair, around November, and just in terms of shopping for the upcoming holidays, couldn't blend better. The timing on that is incredibly on point.
Yeah, I think, well, and I don't know what the future will hold, but if the changes in the unemployment benefits lapse and the oncoming holiday season, it could very well be that, it's almost like a perfect storm of people needing to get, stores needing to get employees and employees needing to find either a first job or even a second, seasonal job.
So I'm just curious, what would the council feel, what information would be needed for us to make some kind of a determination?
A strategic plan.
The plan, anything else?
We'll put
that you
together a proposal as to what, make it a
It'll
little
be
more
finan-
concrete.
you know,
Exactly what we're
financial-
proposing to do, the types of
The
educational
programs that you
programs that we're
want
going to run
and the
for
cost for
businesses.
those programs. And this is
Absolutely.
one-time funding, is that correct?
That's all we're talking about right now, yes. But if you want to make it annual,
Well,
there's no objection.
I'm asking.
As long as you don't help Swimply out, maybe,
I don't even know what that is, I'm sorry, I got here today and I heard that word for the first time.
Just one question. About how many members have you lost in the last year and a half?
Well, unfortunately, the statistic nationally, I think, is that about 30% of small businesses have gone out of business and will not come back. And I don't think Howell is any different. And of the businesses that have not gone out of business, they have cut to the bone their expenses. So, I am the immediate past president, I'm not the current president, but I can tell you that it's not a small percentage of our members that I just think aren't even there anymore. They're just not in existence.
I do have one other question. So has the committee looked at another town with similar demographics of Howell to see, are they doing a program like that? And, if there's any
I have
best
not.
practice?
I have not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Dixell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Barbara Dixell, The Villages. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I'm growing up. I'm going to be 82.
God bless you.
Birthday, Barbara.
Thank you. Mrs. O'Donnell, I'm very sorry to hear about your dad, but I'm glad to hear he's better.
Thank you, Barb.
Really, that's wonderful news.
Thank you.
Okay. First of all, tonight's agenda. 27 years I'm sitting here in this council chambers, reading notices, reading agendas, planning, zoning, council. Every agenda for introduction of ordinances has a date of introduction, has a date of the public hearing. Every ordinance to be voted on that night had an introduction date and a hearing. Tonight's meeting notice has no dates. Now, I did call Mr. Harris this afternoon, and he says, I decided. It's not I decided, guys. It's protocol, it's correct. It's not correct to have no meeting dates because you don't know what the heck is on this meeting. So take a look at the agenda. There is nothing. It needs to be corrected, and protocol needs to be followed. And I did leave a message for Mr. Geegan and Mr. Clark, never got an answer.
So
Okay.
before you move forward, I would like to ask, is there any issue with the agenda, anything on the agenda? Is anything done incorrectly?
Just the dates. You gotta have dates. You gotta have an introduction date, and you gotta have a voting date. There are none.
Dates are not required to be placed on the agenda. The dates are structured into the ordinances. They occurred, they happened.
Okay.
They're not required to be placed on the agenda. And just for the record, her comment as to what I said was not a comment that I made to Ms. Dixell.
Okay, listen, never mind. You're new here, you got a lot of learning to do. Okay, my statement is following. And I'm working with my magnifying glass because I lost my reading glasses and I'm like, forget it. Okay. So number one, on June 22nd, you introduced 4 bonds that were bonds for Howell Township to be bonded with Monmouth County for goods and services. The bonds are for services, okay. I have no problem with that. I'm in favor of that. Okay. June 13th, council meeting, the 4 bonds were needed a must-for vote. The council, not all members were there. You didn't get a must-for vote, and the votes were tabled. August 10th, 2021, a special meeting was called for 3 p.m. in the afternoon. When people were working and not a lot of people even knew about the meeting. There were three council were there and 2 were there by telephone. Hold on. The meeting was opened to the public after the council voted. And you voted for, yes, there was no comments, no nothing. It just, 4 bonds were voted on and you all voted yes. Okay. I spoke first. The meeting notice was on Monday. The agenda was posted on Tuesday. You are the governing body. You work for us. You should have more respect for our residents. Can't call a meeting that nobody knows about. Your the clerk, and the clerk said he has the right to call that meeting. I guess he does. He needs to have more respect for the residents also. I did report this meeting to the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey. I want you to please call a meeting of this council. And I want you to please hold a meeting and call the meeting that taxpayers of Howell and the residents of Howell can come and listen to you explain the bonds. They're millions of dollars, everybody. We are bonding for millions of dollars for goods and services with Monmouth County. I'm in favor of that, but we need to know how much these bonds are for, how much we're going out, how long it's going to pay back, and how much the citizens of Howell are going to be hung for this money. So, like I said, I want you to call a special meeting at night, open to the public, invite all of Howell Township, come here and ask questions, because nobody had the opportunity to ask anything at all on Monday, August 10th, when this special meeting was called at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and nobody, and it should not have been. It should have been at night. You didn't have to do this. And I know the clerk said he could do it, but it didn't have to be done. So, like I said, you need to call a meeting for the township and explain the bonds and have people ask questions, and that would be very much appreciated, because nothing should be done in the cloak of darkness. And that was the cloak of darkness and secrecy, because nobody knew about this meeting. Somebody actually called me on the phone to tell me there was a meeting, and that's when I got on the internet. So, please, correct it, open it to the public, let them ask questions, explain the bonds. It's for goods and services, and I'm in favor of that, fine, but the people of this town need to know about it. And I thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. So I believe that there was discussion prior to that meeting regarding those bonds with townspeople here in the room. Am I remembering that correctly?
Absolutely, Mayor. At the meeting, an evening meeting, we did have the public hearing. There were a few questions that were addressed at that time, and because we didn't have enough council members present to pass it, we had tabled the vote only. So for that reason, that was the reason that special meeting was for the vote only. And it should be noted that even though it was during the daytime, I want to say we had about 26, 28 people in attendance, which obviously tonight we have an unusually large number, but that is well beyond what we usually have at a nighttime council meeting, so.
Well, again, it's my I respectfully request the governing body of Howell Township have an open public meeting for the residents of this town to list the bonds, explain them fully, explain what they're for, explain the money, and have the people be available to ask questions. That did not happen because everything was tabled on the 13th. Please, I'm asking you
The
on
discussion did happen.
how many people
The
were here?
vote was tabled.
How many people were there?
Barbara, we
Okay,
cannot
okay,
control how
okay,
many people will
okay.
come to any
All right.
meeting.
I'm just requesting an open meeting for the people of this town, that they should know exactly what they voted on and how much it's going to cost them. Thank you all very much.
I would also like to, I'm sorry, but I feel, Mr. Harris has been nothing but respectful every time that I have been in his company or heard him speak. So I'm sorry that you feel that he was not being respectful, but again, I have not encountered that myself.
You beat me to it, Mayor.
Thank you very
Hit-
much. I appreciate it.
Clerk Harris hit the ground running. He's doing a fantastic job, for the record.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, Mrs. Dixell can still call the administration's office and get any other information that you might want concerning those bonds. When we introduce them, we speak about them, we have questions, we answer those questions within ourselves and from the public. When an ordinance is being voted on the second time, there is no public discussion. That's been the protocol since I've sat in this chair. So we actually did go strictly by protocol. The meeting was held during the day, and I will remind you that most government meetings are held in daylight hours. So by having them at night, you know, the people that can come, come. Of course, if you work 3 to 11, you can't come. So maybe we should start rotating some time so that we have an opportunity to allow every citizen to attend meetings at varied times. But we make every attempt to have everything thoroughly transparent.
I like that idea.
My one comment was, I don't think that was proper to have that meeting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It should have been at night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Smilek?
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street. Where I will agree with Barbara is the agenda. I would like to see the explanatory statements back on there. I do like the new format with the links. I think that's helpful. But for residents that aren't with know the government background and how to read everything, those explanatory statements were very helpful in having us understand what the broader description is within the,
I have no problem with that.
So
If you don't mind, I have no issue with that.
Well, I don't always get an explanatory statement with a resolution, but when I do, I would be more than happy to include them. But again, you
well,
know,
can we request who's ever putting in the resolutions give an explanatory statement? I mean, we've had it, I mean, going back, I went back through numerous agendas, and we've always had it. This is the first time it started not having any of it. So maybe we could just ask department heads if maybe they could give an explanatory statement to make it easier for the residents. Just a suggestion. I'm going to go with the efficiency study, R21-258, $108,000 for 3 departments, and one of them being our police department. And I will tell you, our police department is one of the best-run departments in this town. It is efficient, that we trust them, and we never question them. And for them to be one of this, when we have so many problems, we've had 3 clerks in the last year and a half. We had to get rid of something happened with our tax collector where she had to move on because there was so much going on in the office, which was stated at one of the meetings. There's numerous problems going on in this town. My recommendation would be, before you do anything like this, Red Bank did something, it was called the manager's, let me see which paper it's on. A management enhancement report. And maybe do that, and let's get an overview of the township first, and then focus on the problem areas. It's something that Red Bank's done. They found it very successful. I don't know, they've used the same company. I don't know if you can transfer the money or plan it with something else. But let me just tell you, RPD is 100% supported by this town. And I don't think one day, should we maybe go over every department? But if you only have 3, I don't think the PD is where we should start. Or we should,
Are you saying that because Brett's over there?
well, you can investigate him. No. Also, why is there 5 different budget areas this is coming from? There's 5 accounts that's coming out of our SALT account. I mean, was this not properly planned for in our budget to cover, so we have to take it from various accounts?
This had come up after the budget had been introduced. I don't recall specifically if it was after it was passed or the exact point, but it had already been introduced at the very least, so and because this is addressing several different areas and departments, that's why we tapped a few different department budgets.
Maybe, COVID's around again. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where it's going to go money-wise. Maybe this is something we should plan ahead of time and put in our budget. Will this last us 5 years? Could this be a capital expense? We're taking out of our SALT money. Do we have enough in there? Because haven't we used that account also for our COVID expenses that get replenished? I just don't know where we are. I don't know the accounts. You know the accounts. Just make sure the money's there, what you want to do. And I would say the police department is not one of your top picks to start with. So that's all I have to say about that. Resolution for the developers agreement. My understanding is, talking to Mr. Harris, is that we, the residents, need you to pass it to see what's in it, because we are not allowed to see what's in this agreement, so we can't ask questions about it. So I wish I could ask you questions, but I can't because I don't know
I
what's in it.
believe we're pulling it, aren't we pulling it?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
Okay, so I'll skip that now.
276 is tabled. yeah.
Thank you, and I request, I don't know if council can do this, but can you please, if you have the option to do this, make this available for residents, so if we do have questions, we can ask before you make a judgment instead of after. I know it's not required of you, but maybe you have the authority to do that. So if you do, I would request that you make that request to administration, that we release this information before you vote on it. Marijuana meeting, has that been discussed, or is there any date?
So we've talked, we need to set up a meeting.
September 14th at 6 o'clock PM.
September 14th, 6 PM.
So that we have our regular meeting, and at 7, we will be here at 6 for that discussion.
Okay. I know it's an intro to ordinance, but the property rental ordinance you have on there is very hard to interpret. You need a decoder book or something. You have to check with this ordinance to know what this ordinance does and it's very, so I'm hoping that you understand this ordinance. I know today it's always an intro, it can be tweaked and everything else. Please make sure that this is correct. A question of mine is, we have a $100 rental fee for permits. If you rent your property in this town, all rental people, anybody who rents their property has to put in a permit with the town with $100. Can we do something like that? So we know which properties that we're gonna have problems with. No ordinance, I see we have nothing for 90 days. You can't rent anything for 90 days. I think you're going to get hit with questions of people that just want to do a one-week family rent out their house. I don't know if that's something that you also want to consider. There are many, I've been reading, there are many articles with lawsuits for improperly putting these ordinances together. And if you use your zoning to put these ordinances together, they seem to be passing these lawsuits. Not putting zoning into this and mixing them together, it's not, again, I don't understand the ordinance you have put together, so I'm not sure which direction you're going. I just hope that you dot your i's and cross your t's on this, because you have one chance, and I don't want to end up in a lawsuit over it and have residents get more and more. I mean, this started last year, Wilson Drive, 500 residents. You had residents on TV saying that they had people urinating on their cars in their yards for these 500. This has been going on for over a year now. We really need to take hold of this. So please, focus on this. Evelyn, I am very sorry for your father, but I will have you know, I reached out to the manager that day and spoke to the manager, and it wasn't one meeting, it's 2 meetings that it was discussed. Not only that, we pay for cell phones for our council, with data plans, with Wi-Fi, with whatever you need to do your job. Now, You have a family emergency, I understand 100%, family should always come first. I will never take that away.
Ms. Smilek, you're at your time. Can you wrap it?
30 seconds. Okay? So, I'm sorry I didn't reach out to you, but I did reach out to management. I was told also that that was our deadline. We should never plan to have an important vote like this on the deadline, because there are emergencies that happen. So this council needs to turn around and step back and say, okay, when is this deadline? Let's make it 2 days at least before, and let's focus on that, because there is an emergency that's going to come up, and at least you have 48 hours to straighten it out. There was 3 meetings altogether you tried to pass this, and it didn't pass. And it was that day, that day after that meeting was canceled, that they had to find out if we would be able to extend, or we would have lost a lot of money. So to say we wouldn't have lost money is not exactly true. We would have lost money. We would have lost a lot of money. All I ask is for this council, and nobody in particular, you have phones, Zoom works on phones, we pay for this, utilize what we give you. If there's a family emergency, work with each other. I can't make it. If somebody's on vacation, 15-minute meeting to save a lot of money is important. Maybe Councilwoman Richmond could have said, Evelyn, I know you're in a spot, so let me help you out here. I will just call in from wherever I am. You know what? You guys need to work together to cover each other and make sure these are done, so our administration isn't backtracking, taking extra time to extend it. Let's make sure our meetings are covered. Cover each other, work together. That's what I ask. And that's all you guys need to do for this town. So I am very happy to hear that your father is okay. And I'm sorry if you have hard feelings. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it that we need to work together, and you guys need to cover each other. We have phones we pay for, we have data plans, we have everything. We give you everything you need. There is no reason that this council can't have a 4-person vote. If one person's out, you should all be covering that one person who's going through an
Ms.
emergency.
Smilek, you're
So,
at your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
If the council will allow me, I'm just happy to put the truth back into play. The first meeting that I missed, I was told by administration that Councilman Russo was going to be absent. With that in play, knowing that we wouldn't have 4 affirmative votes, I said, okay, then we'll cancel. Secondly, the meeting that I did miss for a personal emergency, that's the information I gave to the manager, because in all honesty, I didn't think I had to give anything more than personal emergency. And yes, we have cell phones. Township does provide them. I gave mine back because my personal telephone can do everything that the township was paying for. And in an effort to save money, mine came off the plan. However, when you're in intensive care, there are no cell phones. And I did respond to council saying that I was staying in intensive care with my father until he was no longer in intensive care, however that played out. So whether I had a phone or not was not going to dictate the fact that I was going to leave his side. I knew there was an extension period. However, other people didn't know. That is not my responsibility. So I knew that I wasn't costing anyone any additional money. So the true fact is, I didn't have my phone in intensive care. They don't permit it. You couldn't make a phone call on that floor in Virginia. They wouldn't permit it. And in case he died, I intended to be there. So phone or no phone, or whoever pays for it, my assessment, I feel comfortable with. The extension was gotten, so no one was paying any more money than was needed. The taxpayer didn't suffer any additional cost. You're right, a meeting should never be held on the last day that it's due to be held. I did have a similar conversation, however, the meeting date was already struck, and I think the lesson here is, if you can have it an earlier meeting, I think next time it will be held earlier. But I don't have a township phone. Even if I did, I wasn't going to use it, couldn't use it in intensive care, wasn't going to use it that day, wasn't stepping out of that room that day. So again, the extension was gotten, and the taxpayer suffers not. So the truth of it is that I didn't cost anybody anything in that avenue. So just to be clear, I'm hoping that whoever responded to a social media posting that was there somehow, that I was villainized. It just simply isn't true. Now that the truth is out there, I'm going to take a wild guess that I won't see any corrections on any social media. But whatever it is, it is. Thank you.
Lisa Dowd. Before you come, as you're coming up, Lisa, no, come on up. I just want to say, you and the Green Team, the Shade Tree and the Green Team have been doing amazing things for the town. Thank you so much for the hard work that you're putting in. It's really, it's so much more than I've seen in a very long time.
Thank
So
you.
excellent job.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Dowd. I live at 93 Merrick Road. I'm here representing Shade Tree Commission tonight. I just wanted to thank everyone for their support for the two projects that you reviewed tonight, the fall tree tubing giveaway and the rain garden installations. We're doing the fall tree tubing giveaway in response to the seedling giveaway we did earlier in the year. Just to clarify, the seedling giveaway is a state program. Those seedlings are provided to us through a program through the state for free. The tubing giveaway will actually be, there are trees in tubes, so they look more like a tree than the seedlings do. But we got a lot of feedback from the community after the seedling giveaway, so we wanted to do another fall giveaway where we could do a wider selection of trees and large shrubs for those people who had smaller yards who maybe couldn't put a tree in. So we thought this would be good. People seem to like the flowering trees more, so we were able to do more of those. So we look forward to having the community come out on October 2nd for that. The rain garden installations, we are working with the Rutgers Water Resources Program. They've done a number of rain garden installations throughout the state in different communities. We have identified several locations that we feel would be good, locations that flood, park areas where we could do the installations. Once Rutgers provides the engineering plans, they are ours to use moving forward. So if we want to do future rain garden installations in other locations, we're able to do that. They're also going to provide oversight for the project, and then we'll have volunteers come out and do the plantings. Another thing I wanted to address is I know hazardous trees was brought up. We have discussed hazardous tree inventories. It's something that we did talk to the tree expert about. Deciding how to do it, we may need to figure out a way to split the town up into quadrants or different sections, because doing the whole project may be a little overwhelming to just do the whole town. So we did talk to her about giving us some pricing on that, on a hazardous tree inventory. I also did mention, I think we met earlier, there is a grant available for hazardous tree inventory, which we missed this year, but we would be eligible to apply for it next year. So we realize that it's something that has to be done. I think it's just figuring out the best way to do it, because fortunately we still have a lot of trees. The other project that we are planning to do in the fall is the Easy Street Dog Park Rehab. So I know we talked about that project before, but we will have a date for that shortly. DPW is going to help us with clearing out some of the brush from that location, and then we'll plan a volunteer day for everyone to come out and help, and then we'll work on our certification with the National Wildlife Federation for that location. And we are also planning a maintenance day at Winston Park. So just report the trees at Winston Park are doing very well. So we probably have about 90% of them that are still alive. So we are just working to coordinate a fall maintenance day where we'll do some mulching and weeding and get those trees ready for the winter. Another thing that came up that Shade Tree needs to talk about is potentially identifying some heritage trees in the community. I know we all drive around every day and we look at trees that we maybe don't notice because we see them every day, but I mean, I know I have trees on my property that my grandparents planted, so I think throughout the town we have families that have been here for a long time that may have trees that mean a lot to them. So maybe coming up with a program that identifies those trees and does something to preserve them moving forward. Also in our open spaces, we have trees that have been here for a long time, so. But I think overall, that's our project. I know we've had a pretty aggressive list of projects to get done, so we look forward to having everybody come out in the fall and join us for tree plantings, tree maintenance, and come pick up your free trees at the tree giveaway. And we look forward to seeing everybody. And thank you again for everyone's support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is nobody else on this list. So how do we want to explain the ordinance? How do you want to go through this? I believe people are sitting here wanting to know what the ordinance is about.
So typically, we introduce it, and then we have the public hearing at the next reading.
Okay.
Let me call Danny. Or you want to call Dan? Why don't you call Danny? There's no reason for me to go in between.
So then at this point, I would close the public portion and ask for a motion on the consent agenda items.
So there's a motion to close the public comments?
I'll make a motion to close public.
Second. That's what we just asked.
When we get to the ordinances, right?
So you can come up and talk as soon as that ordinance comes up.
If they want to speak now, can you?
Do you want to, that's fine.
If they have something to say, I mean, they don't have to reserve their comments for the ordinance. I mean, if they have
Okay.
something to say about the situation on their streets, they're welcome to come up and address the council now as well. But the hearing on the ordinance, the formal hearing on the ordinance will be at the next meeting when it's up for passage.
So this is what I'm going to ask. There is this form that if you want to come up and speak, you can sign on here, and that's what the list that we go off of. There are a lot of people out here. If you want to come with 1, 2, 3, 4 spokespeople to talk about it, you can come up. If you don't want to do that and everybody wants to speak, then I need for you all to understand that the meeting will end between 10 and 10:30. And if we must, we will continue this at the next meeting. So I'm not quite sure how we want to handle this specific topic. Everybody has the opportunity to speak, of course. They will have it at the next meeting as well, yes. Yes, sir. If you would please come up to the microphone. I'm just trying to keep it organized, that's all I'm trying to do.
Good evening. I'd like to just speak on ordinance number 21-22.
Sir, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Robert Jaspin. I'm at 5 East 3rd Street in Howell. I'm one of the owners of our family business, the Ivy League Bar and Grill. And it's been a tough 18 months going through the pandemic. I want to first thank Matt Howard and the personnel and public works and fire inspectors that helped us go through the permit to give us the outdoor dining. And that was a godsend. Without the outdoor dining, I don't think we would be able to survive. The reports that are coming through from the restaurant industry, there's about 3,000 restaurants in the state of New Jersey that will not open. And it's sad. Throughout the country, the report is about 75,000 restaurants will not open. In Howell, on Route 9, there are many existing restaurants that are now in the commercial HC zone. And for whatever reason, the HC commercial zone does not allow restaurants. There's a lot of other businesses, commercial businesses, that are allowed but not restaurants. And what the amendment would do would allow for restaurants. It would allow, if I wanted to expand my restaurant, I would be able to expand it because I'm in the right zone. Or if somebody wants to open up a new restaurant, they could open up a new restaurant without going for zoning permit, which is very, very lengthy and very costly. So I'm here just to ask council to support the ordinance that's on the agenda tonight to allow restaurants to be included in the HC commercial zone. Thank you very much.
Mr. Howard, did you want to?
Yeah, I noticed a little while ago that there was this omission of restaurants in the highway commercial zone. There are several, like Mr. Jaspin had said. I researched the previous ordinances. They were dropped off restaurants from the highway commercial zone in 1997. I wanted to see if there was some rationale, some thinking, some reasoning why that was done. So I looked at the master plan reports from the time, and there was no mention of it. The ordinance changed formatting significantly at that time. I don't think it was a mistake. It was probably done. But seeing no reason, no conversation in the past, I don't see why it's needed. Route 9 should have restaurants. There are plenty of existing, including McDonald's, Ivy League, several other smaller ones. And I think I just think it's a reasonable zoning and planning item to include in that zone.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard,
Thank
so we're just making everything conform, correct?
Any existing
Basically.
restaurant would become conforming.
A
So
restaurant with a driveway, just a regular restaurant, whatever, they're
a
all
small
conforming.
expansion will no longer need a variance. It'll still require site plan approval. It makes it a lot easier on the business owners.
Making your life easier.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to come one at a time, or you both want to come up to speak? Sure. Just your name and address, please.
Mike Clemente, 235
I don't think they could hear you. If you would,
Mike Clemente, 235
in the microphone.
Mike's on, all right. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Mike Clemente, 235 Thoroughbred Drive. And I'm Wayne Senatori. I spoke to you, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
and I figured that most of you people already know who I am. You've been getting a lot of emails from most of the people here, but I apologize for not knowing the procedural process here.
No concerns.
But we never had to come to a meeting because for the last 21 or 22 years that we're living up in the area called Bridle Path Estates, better known now as, oh yeah, Peter Foreman Drive, we never had to come to a meeting because we never had any problems. It's a perfect area to live. And most of us people, in fact, I think the top 4 rows back there are all from Bridle Path. But I'd like to just make a general statement about the petition that we presented, just to set the record straight, so. And then my second thing I'd like to talk to about is just in general, the ordinance that you are presented tonight, and some suggestions on, because we couldn't really see what the ordinance was in detail, so we had a couple of suggestions that we wanted to make to see if you would consider things like this, if you haven't already considered them already. So regarding the signed petition, it's not the intent of the residents who signed the petition to get back at or drive out those residents that had the parties and gatherings on their property since the 4th of July. Those residents did what they had to do for whatever reason that they wanted to do it, and they have to live with those decisions. The only thing that everybody here presently, plus whoever signed the petitions that aren't here, the only thing we want is the parties to stop, and more importantly, we want the parties not to be able to continue later on in the future. It has to be prohibited. So that's just the general statement I want to be on record for, representing the neighbors of Bridle Path Estates. As for the petition, it's my understanding that only Howell code enforcement officers can enforce a code. The police officers cannot enforce the code. These poor guys and gals were up there 20 times in the last month, 6, 7 weeks. And their hands are tied. We speak to them all the time, and we know that they can't really do anything because it's not a criminal offense. It's a code violation. And because it's a code violation, we're assuming that they can't do anything. Only the code enforcement officers can do that. And so as part of the new ordinance, we're suggesting that somehow we include a clause or phrase or something that says that the police will be able to enforce any code violation. Now, I checked on Jackson's code, and Jackson's code specifically says for this type of activity, police can enforce the code. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand the jargon and wording of legal documents and codes, but I'm suggesting that maybe if it's not included in your ordinance now, maybe you ought to look into it and see if you can somehow put it in the ordinance.
Mr. Clark, is that a true statement that if put into the ordinance, police can then?
We have to look into it, because
yeah.
typically the zoning ordinances are enforceable by code enforcement. The police are typically not going to break up a party unless there's clearly illegal activity happening, and that's sort of what we want them for, right? We don't want them to be our code enforcement people. So I can look into it, but, as of right now, unless there's some compelling reason to sort of put this into the wheelhouse of the police, I think it's probably better served having it a code enforcement issue.
Okay, thank you.
If I can clarify, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
one of the violations that we've been addressing with this is because of the zoning issue. It's, they're operating a commercial entity in a residential
Right.
zone. That is not something the police would enforce in any town. That is a code enforcement topic. So that's why we've been using code enforcement to come at them with that approach. We have a new ordinance on the books that it's going to be the first test case with the police department to enforce as far as its excessive consumption of municipal services. We had passed a number of months ago. So that was at the request of the police department, so they're going to be charging the person with that, which will be the first test case here in town. We're also trying to come at them from a number of other angles. We've contacted the Board of Health. We're reaching out to the ABC. We've even had cooperation from other towns because of various parking arrangements that have been brought to light in other towns and then busing people in. So we are hitting this from every angle we're able to.
Mr. Geegan, could you explain to these gentlemen what the excessive usage of resources is that we put into effect?
We had a few locations in town where the police were called constantly. May sound familiar.
Sounds familiar.
And they just continued doing it despite us trying to have meetings, trying to correct the problem. So we came up with this ordinance just to try and get their attention a little bit better financially. So again, this is not a large fine, and I know a lot of people have taken the approach, we should have, a $10,000 fine to get their attention. Just for the record, because of court reform, we're not able to.
No, we understand that.
We are limited with that, so, but we can try and come up with new creative ordinances to address this problem.
Well,
So,
thank you, because that's my item number 3.
okay.
Okay, all right. So let's just go straight to item number 3 before we go to number 2. Okay?
Sure.
All right. Item 3. see and talk at the same time.
Yeah, there's no light in that area.
Once the ordinance is on the books, how many other provisions of the township code will be applicable to renting or leasing residential properties for commercial applications? It's a little different than what you just said, but it's in the same vein as what you just said. Would there be like other things where you have, instead of having a single violation, can you have 5, 6, 7 violations that have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of capability of fines? And that would be a little bit more of a deterrent to get people to not want to do these things. I don't know if you understand the amount of money is getting made by these people. On a Saturday night, for a 4 or 5 hour party, they walk away with $10,000. So a $150 fine is not going to do anything.
So I'll walk through the ordinance a little bit and what we intend for it to do. So first, Manager Gagan was correct. Under state law, municipalities are capped at the amount of fines they can levy for a violation. We're capped at $2,000.
Right.
We can't, there can be multiple instances of violations, but then it's up to the judge and the prosecutor to determine whether or not to merge those into, and so it gets into a little bit of stuff on the municipal court end of it. What we're trying to do with this ordinance is we've done 2 things. The first thing we've done is ban short-term rentals of residents. And why'd we do that? I mean, obviously it interferes with the Airbnbs of the world and that, but what it prevents is people coming along and saying, all right, we're gonna rent the house, and then we're gonna use the pool and the cabana, and we're gonna have a big party there. So if you take a look at Airbnb in Howell, the rentals aren't that much per night. So we made it for a 90-day period, because then even at $50, even if somebody wanted to rent it for 90 days and then turn it back, they're gonna have to spend $4,500, $5,000 to rent that house for one night. And we'll also be aware of it at the time too. So we took care of the Airbnb part. In terms of the amenities, we looked at Tom's River because they've had issues with this, and they just recently passed an ordinance very similar to ours with the wording of that. So in addition to preventing the rental of a residence, we're preventing the rental of specific amenities like pools, cabanas, decks, patios, yards, and whatever else may come under the definition of an amenity. So we kind of tried to cut the legs off from 2 different directions, so that way people are not going to be able to rent short-term for parties like this.
Okay, so that's a step forward.
Mr. Clark, I may add that we're adding that you cannot advertise as well, correct?
Right. If you're barred from renting on a short-term basis, you're also barred from advertising for the rental on a short-term basis, so.
That's my second question. You guys are jumping ahead of me here.
Sorry,
The
we didn't
second,
get the script.
all right, so my second comment, or my second statement regarding the new ordinance, the new ordinance may prohibit advertising, but it doesn't basically say by whom, from what I understand. From the little snips that I've seen of it, it doesn't say by whom. Now, yeah, we know Swimply advertised, and that's how you got 430. That's 430 Peter Forman was because of Swimply. But 435 didn't advertise via Swimply. 435 advertised via a promoter who put it up on Instagram.
Right, so it's still
So it's a little-
advertisement
so
under
it's a
our
little-
definition.
Does that cover that?
I would
So-
comment
absolutely
on
make
that?
that argument, yes.
All right, so what I basically thought or was going to recommend, the ordinance should state the owner or any other outside source advertising the owner's property. That's the intent that, my second item here.
So I'll take a look at that. I mean, that may be a legitimate suggestion, and we'll see. I mean, typically, we consider the promoter to be an agent of the owner, and so whatever they're doing constitutes action by the owner. But I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, because the owners, from what we understand, didn't advertise, went straight straight across the street, asked the guy, who do I talk to? Got the number, called up the place. And that's how that connection was made, so. That's basically what I have. I apologize again, and thank you for your time. Michael?
Hi, good evening. I just had a question regarding the advertisement on Swimply that's on right now for 4:30. It's still up. They're still having people come to the house. I live directly behind them. It's ongoing.
Well, I'll tell you, we're in
Yeah.
litigation, and so I can't really get into it too deeply, but we're taking care of it. We're working to take
Okay.
care of it.
Okay. Fair enough. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got to say, we're all sorry that you're dealing with this. None of us expected it to happen, and especially in that quiet little neighborhood. So the gentlemen at the dais have been working very hard to try
we
and
know
solve
that.
this for you, so
We know that, Mayor, and we appreciate it.
We do.
thank
Really
you.
do. And I just want to make one statement to Matt. I hope being a pain in the ass, excuse me, pain in the butt is not going to preclude you from giving me a hard time getting my permit for my pool.
No, sir, no, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, both gentlemen did an excellent job, very eloquent. Is there anyone else out there that would like to come up that has another comment or question regarding the same topic? Hi. Please state your name and address.
Jacqueline Sabin, 101 Manfrey Court. I'm actually behind the owners of the house that's on Peter Foreman doing the parties. I know that you spoke about this in length, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but there is a big party happening on September 6th, like a big party. 4th, sorry, thank you. Oh, you're very aware. So I know when you said passing the ordinance, would that exclude that date? It won't count for that date. That party will happen.
So one of the things we did was we went into court on what's called an order to show cause. You file a verified complaint, basically telling the judge that this person signing the verification attests to the truth of the statements in this complaint, and judge, we'd like for you to sign off on this temporary restraining order barring these activities from happening. So we entered into a consent judgment with one of the owners that's having parties. The judge did sign off on the TRO for the other owner. I'm not certain if the date for the hearing is before the 4th or after. I think it's after, so the TRO is in place.
So it might happen. This party might still happen.
They're barred by the court's order from having that party.
They are barred. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood that. That's
No
fine.
worries.
Thank you so much for your time. That's all I have.
Thank you. At this point, is there any other discussion? So I will close this portion.
Is there a motion to close the public comment?
I'll make a motion. Public comment.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And the public comments are closed.
We
Mayor,
have-
next, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir.
Next before you would be the motions to accept the resignations of Chris Garrick from the Environmental Commission and the resignation of Robert D. Ruiz as an alternate park owner representative on the Rent Stabilization Board. Is there a-
I'll make the motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Garrick and Mr. Royce.
I would second that motion.
Moved by Mr. Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Councilwoman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And the resignations have been accepted. I believe you're scheduled to reappoint those positions probably in September.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda for your consideration is the consent agenda. At this time, I would just like to apprise everyone that item number 263 and item number 276 have been requested to be withdrawn from the consent agenda and will not be considered this evening.
I would also request to have a separate vote on the efficiency study.
There's, Mayor, there's separate votes on 239 and 245, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. So then, may I have a motion for the consent agenda items?
I'll make the motion to move resolutions 21-240 through resolution 21-277 with separate votes for 239 and 245.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any further discussion?
No, sir.
Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And the consent agenda has been approved. Next for your consideration is Resolution Number 21-39, which is a resolution providing for the insertion of a special item of revenue in the 2021 budget of the Township of Howell pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-87, which is Chapter 159. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 21-239?
I'll make the resolution to adopt 21-239.
I'll second.
Motion moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman Richmond. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And Resolution 21-239 has been approved. Next for your consideration is Resolution 21-245, which is awarding a contract for the Township Efficiency Study.
I would make a motion to approve 21-245.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilwoman Richmond. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. May I?
Be my guest.
In terms of the efficiency study, this does not say that we do not trust administration. Even President Reagan said, trust yet verify. So basically, an efficiency study does not mean that we're looking for the gotcha angle on any one person, any one section of our Howell Township employees. We trust the manager to do the right thing. I think it's important to realize that the taxpayers trust us to ensure that the money is being spent wisely and efficiently. And I think even large companies, CEOs, actually do efficiency studies in huge corporations. I know Prudential went through one about 14 years ago that I was lucky enough to read. Voluminous to say the most. However, this is not a gotcha thing. This is not a political thing. Someone had actually spoken about the police department, and it's interesting to me that this happens to be the largest portion of our budget. So I would think that the efficiency and knowing that the money is being spent in the most wisely and intelligent way for the betterment of the entire township would be the first thought that council would have. So I'm hopeful that people understand that an efficiency study is for the good of the town. It's to ensure that we are running this business as efficiently and effectively as possible. And the last study that was done in 2006 was not an efficiency study as I saw outlined in other ones. As a matter of fact, that paper was never even adopted by the seated council at that time. But I think it's important to know that what we're doing and how we're spending taxpayer money in excess of $50 million is being done in the best way, the most efficient way, and
Thank you, Joe.
I believe that the taxpayers expect us to be diligent on this item. And again, I can only say it does not mean that we don't trust anyone. It just means that we're being fiduciarily responsible. And I think that it's important that we look at it for the information it can bring and for the good things that it can bring us to ensure that the money we spend is being spent in the best way possible and hopefully not only streamline, but actually put the money in each category where it can do the most good for the residents. So it's in that light that I hope the council looks at this efficiency study, knowing that I believe it's our responsibility. And I think that we should verify what's happening. I think that that is one of our major jobs. So I would hope that the council would look at it in that light.
Well, I would like to comment. Actually, I think it's an excessive amount of money to spend on this study. I believe that we have stopgaps in place. We have audits that we do on an annual basis. There are so many programs that we do that are, I want to say, checks and balances. I just think at this point in time, to spend $108,000 on this study when it was done years ago and nobody did anything with it, I mean, I just think I think that's a waste of the taxpayers' dollars, to be honest, at this time.
Mayor, one comment?
Please.
I'm not, of course, like you said, checks and balances, audits, but we didn't budget for this. It's $108,000 outside of our budget, and we're in a pandemic. It is not the time to spend $108,000.
I agree.
That's just my opinion.
Well, I can only say that I've been talking about this for over 6 months, but again, I think it's our responsibility to ensure that everything, well, I won't repeat everything I said. I think it's up to us to verify that what happens is in the best interest of the taxpayer, because it's their money. It's our money. If you pay your property taxes, we all do, it's our money. Shouldn't we know that it's being spent in the best, the most positive, the most efficient manner? And although there's a pandemic, I think the government's pretty much taking care of people on a general basis for different assistance programs. However, I think we're still responsible to do the right thing. If ever there's a time maybe to be even more in tune, it is now, when money is critical. I think it's time that we actually take a good, hard look, have outside eyes actually look at our township spending and ensure that it's being done in the best way. We spend over $50 million, and huge corporations are still doing efficiency studies.
So why wasn't it put into the budget then? Why are we going outside of the budget to spend this money? If you're talking about it for 6 months, as you say, which I haven't heard, but if you're talking about that for 6 months, then why, before we approved the budget, wasn't that mentioned in the process at all? Why are we going outside of the budget to spend this money when we're trying to save money, but we're going to spend money that we have not budgeted for this program?
Well, honestly, when I did bring it up months ago, you weren't in favor of it then either.
No, I'm not.
And I don't believe Councilman Bonovich was in favor of it at that time. So I'm not sure, even if it were to go into the budget, that you would have even let it go in. You may have had it pulled out.
But to do it after the fact, I don't think that's fiduciarily responsible.
I think not to do it is worse, in my opinion. I think it's important that we actually, how many times do we hear transparency in your spending? And my theory is is totally on the other side, Mayor. I just think that we are responsible. I think this is part of our job. I think just because it hasn't been done isn't the reason not to do it.
I say wait
So-
till the next budget, put it into the next budget, and I would move forward with the study.
And may I add, I wouldn't just pick 3 departments. I'd say do it all. If you can.
Exactly.
Well, the only reason why we talked about 3 departments,
Is
and we all
money.
talked about
Is
this,
money.
is because it was less money.
Is money. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
and that's why we
I have
chose the 3 largest departments was exactly that reason.
I'm going to jump in here to get my comment in real quick, if that's okay. I was back and forth on this one. It's a lot of money. When I saw the price tag, I initially was like, wow, it's a lot of money. Thought about it, and then I saw that the last efficiency study was done while I was in high school, when we had dial-up modem and Nokia phones and fax machines and whatnot. So, this is an idea to save money, make things more efficient. It's not binding, so the recommendations from this product is just a recommendation. The department heads have sole responsibility of the departments, and that should damn well stay that way.
So if that's the case, then why would we want to do the study in the first place? If we're saying that you're going to do the study,
Yeah.
and you're not going to take all the recommendations and
No, I'm not
implement
saying
the
they don't have to.
recommendations,
No, it's up to them. They
then
can take
why,
them.
if it's up to them, then why are we spending $108,000?
To give them the recommendations, no? It's just to help, it's just,
I think this is unreasonable at this point in time. I believe
listen,
it should go into the next budget. I'll be more than happy to vote for it then. I believe, not being in the budget, it should not go. I'm sorry.
no, listen, reasonable minds can differ. I see
Of
both sides.
course.
I see both sides of this. I think both sides have reasonable arguments. But, again,
So-
the last time what was done was '05.
And it wasn't used.
It
It was never touched.
Well, this one should be used.
And of course.
Absolutely, and I think
Mayor,
it should, and I think it will be used.
If I can clarify a point, in reviewing the executive summary, a number of the recommendations have been implemented,
Oh, I didn't know that.
so.
If I may jump in here, I'm still here.
Yes.
Number one, I just want to clarify that audits that you keep speaking of, audits do not look at efficiency. Efficiency studies look at efficiency. That's number one. Number two is so much has changed in this world in 16 years that I think it's our responsibility to the taxpayers to look at this and see how we could save money and how we can save the taxpayers money. That's our job up here. And the mayor, I hear you say all the time, it's a fiduciary responsibility. I don't know why in this situation it's not. We have to sit here and look at all these departments that 16 years have been complacent, 16 years checks and balances, whatever you want to say. We still owe it to our taxpayers to see what we could find. Unless anyone is hiding anything, I don't see what's the problem with doing it. And you can say it's $108. I think it's $108 well spent because efficiency studies, do your research, have proved to save towns hundreds and thousands of dollars. So the $108,000 that we're putting towards this, maybe we should stop hiring and creating new jobs. Maybe this is where we need to spend the money.
My argument-
The money is better spent somewhere else, maybe with a new position. This is where I think the money is better off spent, to help save the taxpayers' money and make sure we're running this township as efficient as it needs to be.
Correct. So what I'm going to say is, well, I did not say I didn't want to do the study. What I said was, the study shouldn't be done now because it was not budgeted. That's what I said. And fiduciarily, it should be budgeted if we're going to do it in the year.
Mayor, that's semantics. We've been talking
That's
about...
not semantics, I'm sorry.
Wait, excuse me. You spoke...
But budgeted items versus non-budgeted items are not semantics. I'm sorry to say, Councilwoman.
Your argument is because, again, just because it wasn't budgeted, we talked about it. We talked about it, and everybody wants to play politics, okay? But not here, not with the township, and not with our taxpayers'
This is not about
dollars.
politics.
We
It's
can
about
spend this
dollars
money-
and cents. So if you
Excuse
want to
me?
vote on this, I am more than happy to move forward to vote on this.
Okay, let's move
Please.
forward. I'm ready to vote.
You ready for the vote?
Yes?
Councilman Bonovich?
No.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Information, I don't believe we had a second. I want to do this vote very carefully.
It was
There was?
moved-
I missed it.
yes,
My apologies.
It was moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell and seconded by Councilwoman Richmond.
Okay, my vote is yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Absolutely not.
And Resolution 21-245 has been approved.
Fantastic.
Why not? You and Dewey and Lily, the same three against the same two. What a shame. And then for the taxpayers.
Next on the agenda for your consideration is unfinished business, public hearing, and possible adoption of ordinances. First for your consideration is ordinance number 21-22, which is an ordinance of the Township of Howell amending Chapter 188, Article 10, Section 18, 188-76, Highway Commercial Zone of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell.
I'll make a motion to approve 0-21-22.
We have to have the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to open this ordinance up for public hearing and discussion. It's the first one, 0-21-22.
It's about the HC zone.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
At this point, I would close the public portion.
Let's do that with an official motion.
I again will, I'd like to pass
You can
zero.
make a motion to close the public
A
portion.
motion to close the public hearing.
I'm very sorry. Make a
Motion to
motion to
close.
close.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo.
Yes.
And Mayor Berger.
Yes.
And the public comments on ordinance 21-22 are closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 21-2022?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 0-21-22.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Is there any further discussion? You ready for the vote? Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And ordinance 21-22 has been properly adopted. The next for your consideration is ordinance 21-23, which is an ordinance amending Article 24, Chapter 139 fees, subsection 69C, Echo Lake Pavilion of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell. You want to open the public hearing, Mayor?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
If anyone wants to comment on ordinance 21-23, please come to the podium, state your name and record for the your name and address for the record. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public?
There's-
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 21-23?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-23.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Is there any further discussion? Ready for the vote?
Mr. Clark, this is just an additional for the chairs, right? Additional $300?
Chairs and tables.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Ready for the vote?
Yes.
Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And ordinance number 21-23 has been properly adopted. Next for your consideration are the introduction of ordinances. Ordinance number 21-24, which is an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, authorizing the leasing of a portion of the property located at Block 67, Lot 2 in the Township of Howell pursuant to NJSA 40:A-12-13 et sec. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 21-24.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we are ready for the vote. Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And ordinance number 21-24 has been introduced. It will have a public hearing with possible adoption on September 14th. Next for your consideration is ordinance 21-25, which is an ordinance amending Article 2, Domestic Animals, Chapter 57, Fees, subsection 4B, License and Registration Tag of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell. Is there a motion to introduce ordinance 21-25?
I'll make a motion to move ordinance 0-21-25.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Richmond, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Is there any discussion?
No.
And we'll call, ready for the vote. Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger?
Yes.
And ordinance number 21, having been properly introduced, will have a public hearing with possible adoption on September 14th. Next for your consideration is ordinance 21-26, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 178, Article 2, rental properties, subsection 29, other standards of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell. Is there a motion to introduce ordinance 21-26?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 21-26.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Is there any further discussion? We will call the roll. Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger.
Yes.
And ordinance number 21-26 having been properly introduced, will have a public hearing with possible adoption on September 14th. And finally, for your consideration is ordinance 21-27, which is an ordinance of the Township of Howell amending Chapter 188 Land Use, Article 14 Residential Design Standards, Section 132 Sidewalks of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell. Is there a motion to introduce ordinance 21-27?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 0-21-27.
I'll second the motion.
Moved by Councilwoman Richmond, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any discussion? We will call the roll. Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond?
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
And Mayor Berger.
Yes.
And having been properly introduced, ordinance 21-27 will have a public hearing with possible adoption on September 14th.
The next regular meeting dates will be Tuesday, September 14th. As we mentioned, there will be 6 o'clock for... Sure, you want to come up? Yes,
please. My name is Andrew Henderson of Princeton Junction, New Jersey. I represent 6461 Howell LLC. And there's not going to be a vote on number R21-276 today?
It's correct, it was tabled.
Excuse me?
It was tabled, you're correct. There's no vote.
Is there a reason for that, or?
There are some issues with the developer's agreement, the prior site plans, the original settlement from 2003, and the existing R5 ordinance that I need to talk to Mr. Kaufman about.
Okay. So the earliest this will come up for a vote is the next meeting?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the next meeting will take place on Tuesday, September 14th, 6 PM. We will have, what? The marijuana discussion, and then at 7 o'clock, we will begin public discussion. I think that's it, right?
Yep, being
I'm
no
sorry?
further business, is there?
Oh, and to reiterate that we're going to be doing September 11th on September 10th. I believe that I am done. May we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is
Aye.
adjourned.
Thank you.